Here are some interesting facts and historical context of A Room with a View. 1. Inspired by Forster's travels. E.M. Forster was deeply influenced by his own experiences traveling through Italy in the early 20th century. He visited Florence in 1901 with his mother, much like Lucy Honeychurch and Charlotte Bartlett in the novel. His observations of British tourists abroad and the contrast between rigid English manners and Italian passion shaped the book's themes. 2. Critique of Edwardian society. Set in the early 1900s, the novel critiques the stiff, class-conscious Edwardian society, especially the constraints placed on women. Lucy's struggle between social convention and personal freedom reflects the larger cultural shifts occurring in England at the time. 3. The Grand Tour tradition. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, young upper-middle-class Europeans often took a grand tour of the continent, particularly Italy, to experience art, history, and culture. However, British tourists often maintained their own customs abroad rather than embracing local cultures. This is humorously depicted in the novel through the behavior of Lucy's fellow travelers at the pension Bertolini. 4. Gender and social change. Lucy Honeychurch represents the new woman, an emerging concept in Edwardian England advocating for female independence and self-determination. Her growth from a passive young lady to someone who chooses love over societal expectations reflects changing attitudes toward women's roles. 5. The rise of romanticism over rigid morality. Forster contrasts characters like Cecil Vyse, who embodies snobbish intellectualism and repressed emotion, with George Emerson, who represents spontaneity, passion, and a rejection of social constraints. The novel promotes emotional honesty over societal pretenses, a theme aligned with early modernist thought. 6. Florence as a symbol of liberation. Florence in the novel symbolizes art, beauty, and personal awakening. The Italian setting, full of light and open landscapes, contrasts with the enclosed and suffocating spaces of England, mirroring Lucy's internal struggle for self-discovery. 7. Censorship and early reception. Published in 1908, A Room with a View was considered progressive but not as controversial as some of Forster's later works, such as Maurice, which featured a homosexual romance and remained unpublished until after his death. However, its themes of repressed desire and class tension were radical for the time. 8. Influence on later literature and film. The novel has had a lasting impact on romantic and literary traditions, inspiring adaptations such as the 1985 Merchant Ivory film starring Helena Bonham Carter and Daniel Day-Lewis. This adaptation, celebrated for its lush cinematography and faithful retelling, helped revive interest in Forster's works. 9. The influence of the Bloomsbury Group. E.M. Forster was closely associated with the Bloomsbury Group, an intellectual and literary circle that included Virginia Woolf, Lytton Strachey, and John Maynard Keynes. Though Forster was not a core member, his ideas about personal freedom, emotional honesty, and breaking societal conventions were influenced by the group's progressive views on art, sexuality, and individualism. 10. The title's symbolic meaning. The room with a view represents more than just a physical space. It symbolizes openness to experience, self-discovery, and breaking free from societal expectations. Throughout the novel, characters who accept the view, like George Emerson, are more emotionally liberated, while those who reject it, like Charlotte Bartlett, remain trapped in conventional thinking. 11. The Italian Renaissance and its role in the novel. Florence was a major center of the Italian Renaissance, and its rich artistic history plays a symbolic role in Lucy's transformation. The novel references paintings, sculptures, and classical ideals, suggesting that Lucy's exposure to art and beauty in Florence helps her question her rigid upbringing and embrace passion and spontaneity. 12. The influence of Romanticism versus Rationalism. Forster contrasts romantic ideals, represented by George Emerson's emotional spontaneity, with rigid rationalism, embodied by Cecil Vyse and the conservative English society. The novel ultimately favors a romantic approach to life, advocating for love and emotional truth over social status and intellectual snobbery. 13. The role of travel in self-discovery. During the Edwardian era, travel was often seen as an educational experience, particularly for the upper middle class. However, Forster suggests that true self-discovery comes not just from sightseeing but from engaging with new perspectives and embracing personal change. Lucy's transformation occurs because of her experiences outside England, not just because she visits famous landmarks. 14. The class divide in Edwardian England. The novel critiques class divisions, particularly through the character of Cecil Vyse, who looks down on people he considers lower class and uncultured. In contrast, Mr. Emerson and George, though less conventional and upper class, represent a more authentic and progressive way of thinking. 15. The role of music and Beethoven. Music, particularly Beethoven, plays a key role in the novel. Lucy's passion for playing the piano reflects her inner emotions, often suppressed by society. Her playing of Beethoven's stormy sonatas suggests a subconscious longing for a freer, more passionate life, foreshadowing her eventual rebellion against social conventions. 16. Florence as a setting for romantic literature. Florence has long been a setting for romantic and artistic awakening in literature. Other famous authors, such as Henry James and D. H. Lawrence, also wrote about English tourists experiencing personal transformation in Italy. Forster uses Florence not just as a picturesque backdrop but as a catalyst for Lucy's self-realization. 17. The evolution of feminism in the novel. Lucy's journey can be seen as an early feminist narrative. While she starts off as a conventional young woman expected to marry within her class, she gradually asserts her independence by rejecting an arranged future and choosing love and passion over duty. This reflects the changing attitudes toward women's roles in Edwardian society. 18. Forster's own struggles with repression. E.M. Forster was a closeted gay man living in a time when homosexuality was criminalized in England. His personal struggles with repressed desire may have influenced his depiction of societal constraints and the need for personal liberation in A Room with a View. Though Lucy and George's love story is heterosexual, the novel's themes of emotional honesty and defying societal expectations echo Forster's own life. 19. Influence on later literature and film adaptations. Aside from the acclaimed 1985 A Room with a View film by Merchant Ivory, the novel has influenced numerous other romantic stories that explore self-discovery and defying social norms. Many modern romantic films and books borrow its central themes of love, travel, and breaking free from societal expectations. 20. Forster wrote the novel early in his career. A Room with a View was one of A.M. Forster's earliest novels, written between 1903 and 1908. Though it is often considered lighter in tone than some of his later works, Howard's End, A Passage to India, it still contains deep social critique and philosophical themes. 21. The novel satirizes British tourists in Italy. Forster humorously critiques the way British tourists behave abroad, particularly their tendency to recreate English society in foreign lands rather than embrace local culture. The Pension Bertolini, run by an Englishwoman in Florence, is a prime example of this, as it serves as a small English enclave in Italy. 22. The novel was originally more cynical. Early drafts of A Room with a View had a more pessimistic ending, with Lucy refusing to follow her heart and choosing societal expectations over love. However, Forster later revised it to give Lucy and George a happy ending, making it his most optimistic novel. 23. The idea of rooms reflects social confinement. Rooms in the novel symbolize both physical and social confinement. Lucy's journey from an undesirable room, without a view, to one with a view mirrors her transformation from societal restriction to personal freedom. The novel consistently contrasts enclosed spaces, English drawing rooms, stiff social settings, with open landscapes, the Italian countryside, nature, emphasizing Lucy's evolving mindset. 24. The impact of the British class system. The rigid Edwardian class system plays a major role in the novel. Characters like Cecil Vyse represent the aristocratic intellectual elite, while the Emersons, though educated, are considered socially inferior due to their working-class background. Forster subtly criticizes these class distinctions by portraying George and his father, as more emotionally honest and open-minded than the upper-class characters. 25. The novel was influenced by the aesthetic movement. Forster was influenced by the late 19th century aesthetic movement, which valued beauty, art, and individual expression over Victorian moralism. This is reflected in the novel's embrace of art, music, and personal passion as a means of self-discovery. Lucy's attraction to beauty and music suggests her potential for personal growth beyond rigid social norms. 26. Forster's own sexuality and the theme of repressed desire. Though A Room with a View is a heterosexual love story, Forster's personal struggles as a closeted gay man influenced his exploration of repressed desire and societal constraints. His later novel Maurice, written in 1913 to 1914 but published posthumously in 1971, more explicitly tackles the theme of forbidden love. 27. The novel critiques British imperial attitudes. While A Room with a View does not directly address British colonialism, its themes of cultural superiority and resistance to change reflect the imperial mindset of Edwardian England. Characters like Cecil Vyse display a patronizing attitude toward those outside their social circle, mirroring Britain's broader condescension toward other nations. 28. The 1985 film adaptation sparked renewed interest in Forster. The Merchant Ivory adaptation of A Room with a View, starring Helena Bonham Carter, Julian Sands, Maggie Smith, and Daniel Day-Lewis, was a major success and helped revive interest in Forster's works. Its lush cinematography and faithful adaptation introduced a new generation to his themes of love, class, and social change. 29. The novel's ending represents a departure from Victorian morality. Victorian literature often portrayed heroines who were punished for defying social norms, but Forster's Lucy Honeychurch breaks from this tradition. By choosing George over Cecil and rejecting societal expectations, she embraces a modernist perspective that values personal happiness over rigid morality. Thanks for listening and watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Like this video. It helps more people find these classic stories. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think.